3. If you could answer him in the chat, we'll get started, return to the lecture.
Yeah, so the lecture is done before Tian starts the lab. I just want to thank Bud for correcting me in terms of the aspect ratio is actually height over width. So I have corrected the lecture, and I will update the one in the Google Classroom accordingly. Go ahead, Tian.
Hello, chào mọi người. Thì hôm nay mình sẽ làm cái lab 3 thì let me see here. Thì hôm nay mình làm cái floor planning thì ở trong cái chat á, thì có hỏi là không biết là mình đã có cơ hội làm mấy cái lab chưa? Chưa thấy ai trả lời. Anyway thì hôm nay là thì cái lab này nó có 2 phần, tức là hôm nay thứ ba với lại ngày thứ sáu thì cái phần 1 okay, just phần 1 là mình làm về cái IO placement cộng với cái macro placement. Đấy. Rồi sau đó là cái phần 2. Cái phần 2 tức là ngày thứ sáu á, mình sẽ làm về cái power, right? Power power read, power and round. So okay, so for today we just do the part 1. So I'll just quickly go over, the important file that we should pay attention to. So, we have this course like lab 3 floor plan 1, because it's going to be floor plan going to divide into two weeks, right? This week and then next week. So that's why we have floor plan 1 and floor plan 2. So next week going to be floor plan 2. And so under here we have data. So this is very similar to the lab 2 that we did last week. So we have essentially just the input, right? We have a net list. We have the MMC here, and then we have the IO, the path placement, right? The main documentation is going to be under the doc directory. So actually, I make a mistake here. This is not, it's not MMC. I need to change that. But, and then just to make it easy, so I split the big. So we have the main script here called run lab, right? So within this run lab, we can look at it, but essentially it's have like 5 or 6 different steps. So we're gonna do like one step at a time. So it just make it easy to manage. And I also have that for this lab I put in an Innova startup, right? So this is a file that get loaded right after you invoke Innovas. So, and here just instruction, just like we did, before. We just copy what we have here to a user directory, and then all the student and TA can work, on their own copy, right? We don't want to touch what under Tresemme. So. Okay, so for part 1 here, we're gonna start the Innovas. And let's see here. So I do have it here. So I already start Innovas. And let's see what I'm asking. So, okay, so note the following information. Essentially, these are the things we should pay attention fully the first time you run it. After that, not so much. So here, let's show. So if we start Innovas, Right, you can see, it's gonna tell you sorry for the delay. So I'm gonna go up one a little bit. Right here. So you're gonna see the tool gonna write out on the screen what version it's using, what machine it's running on. So that's important, right? And then it's actually even tell you how many CPU with the current license is allowed. And then for me, I have my local Innovus where I define all of these alias. And for this lab, I add in some additional essentially I suppress because what they have is in the library they have some warning and error, and I don't the first time I want to look at it, after I look at it I don't want to see again, right? So so that's one way you can do is you can go here and just add all these suppress things that you don't want to see anymore and you think is okay, right? So make sure you look at it first, and then after that you want to see it again. So here I can so so this lab, let's go to my copy. So I have the lab 3 here. So this is just a copy of what under trisomy. So that's the wrong one. I should be in here. As you can see here, I split the lab into part 1 and then part 2, right? So we have, so for today, we're gonna do the import. We do the list, the macros with the blockages, and then we do the placement, adjustment, right? So resizing the core area, and then this for Friday. So and I think I did mention.
Tian, just a correction.
Okay.
Friday we'll do the macro placement. Today we just do the chip area and IO placement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we haven't covered the macro yet. So the power grid will be next week.
Oh, really? Ooh. Okay, so let's see if I see, because that's another whole lot I can do here. Okay, so let me try
Yeah,
to
you can
see.
rerun the import and show them around, like the IOs, the different cells and the core to IO to core spacing and other things that we mentioned in the
Okay,
yeah.
I see, because we did some of that last week.
Yeah, but
So
this time we're gonna go deeper. Yeah, because whatever I cover in the slides, if you can show them.
okay, so the power gonna be the next week, I thought. Okay, I see.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so here just want to quickly look at what we have in the Innova Startup, right? So I just do the suppress meshes. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back here. Okay, so what I have here is do the run import. So we can look at the run import. So this is very much identical to what we did last week, right? We set it up the power net, VDD, VSS, and then we read in the MMC, where we define all the constraint, timing library set, analysis view. That's for the timing information. And then for the physical, we have a list of lab file, technology lab, and then the cell lab, right? And then we read them in. So once you have those, and then the net list. So essentially, remember there's three things, right? So timing information, physical information, and the connectivity. And then you run the init design, right? So let's run that again. So I'm gonna source. Okay. So I'm gonna switch to the floor plan view here. So by default, so far, all we did was just init the design and create the ring, right? So if you look here, we have not created the core yet. So it's by default, all these areas just get filled up with the row, right? So let me try see how much I can do for the second. Yeah, these are for the macro placement. Okay, so let's see what we can do. I can look at this one, see what they have. Yeah, because the import RAMs we did last week already. Yeah, I don't want to repeat what we already did. So I think, Phil, we probably just go ahead to do with the placement anyway. We can do it today and Friday.
You mean macro placement? Yeah, you can do it before I cover. It's fine.
Yeah, because
yeah, go
I
ahead.
mean, there's not much to talk like import. It just right. So
Yeah,
and
if you can
the
show
lab
the
is very
IO,
long, right? So the student
yeah,
can follow these.
yeah. If you can show the IO rings, right, references. Did you show from the placement to the actual location of all these cells, and show the corner cells and show the
Yeah, we did that last
VD?
week,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah, we did look at the order of the pad here, and we even tried to reorder some of them.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead to do whatever you plan to do for today. Yeah.
Or just a portion of it. I think that's fine. Okay, so let's go here. For plan view. So for this lab, I put in like essentially two things, right? What I think you should do on your own, which is I put in the orange color here. So we have the main documentation from straight from Cadence, right? And they have the breakdown. Let's say, for this portion you do like section 2-2, 2-3, and then 2-4, right? So I'm not gonna go to this because I don't want to do the same thing as what Caden want you to do. We can look at some of it. So let's say this one is page 9 to 10, right? So let's see here. So it give you a little bit more hands-on, right? So this, you go to this section and they say, wow, you come here, mostly do the interactive, right? So this is something that you want to kind of like exercise, get used to it. But in the lab, I don't think it's efficient to do all these, Um, um, so so that's I want you to do on your own, right? The orange portion of it, and then we can do what I'm trying to do with the blue color here is what we want to do together to achieve the same thing, right? So what Kaden want to do is like show you the step that you can do in the GUI mostly, and what I want you to do with me, along with me here, is how we can do it with the command, right? We just run a bunch of command, and ultimately that's when you do the implementation. That's what you're gonna do, right? You're not gonna go in and move the cell, here and there. No, you're gonna run command and place the cell exactly where you want it to do, to be, right? So let's do that. So we're gonna look at the place run place ins article, run place in article. So look at here. Make sure. Okay, so if you look at this, the first thing is in this script is it's create a floor plan, right? So just quickly, so right here is create the floor plan, right? Just so essentially that command is essentially the same thing as in the Cadence lab, right? You can go in here and specify all these number, right? So so what you do in the lab here, essentially the same command here. So that's why I want to do the same thing, right? We want to do uh, there's two ways to achieve the same result, right? So okay, so we're gonna create the floor plan, and then let's see. So I'll just do it slowly here. Did I copy the whole thing? Yeah, sorry about the delay. Okay, actually, before I do that, I want to make sure I put some marker here. So this is what we had before, right? So you look here, all the row is very much at the origin, right? So yeah, let's put something here. I'll just do something with the IO. So if something changed, then we have a reference. That's what I'm trying to do here. Just put in a reference. Uh, okay. So I just run this command, right? Create floor plan. And what it does is tell me the die size, right? Well, specify the die size. And then remember, we defined the core site in the technology file. So in this lab, we have only one. So, but when you have multiple, then that's the reason you have to specify which size you want to use for your chip, right? That's the reason we specify here. So, okay, and then okay, so that's the die size, and let's see here, 120. So that's X and Y. So that's 6,000, 5,000. And that the core, that's the offset. I think that's the offset. So if I'm gonna measure from here, it's gonna be 120, right? So this command is say, well, I'm gonna create a floor plan with some offset, right? So that's what it does. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna learn here is what they call a relative floor planning, right? So it's so what relative floor planning is, you have an anchor, right? You create your anchor, let's say a macro, right? You start up with a macro, and then everything else gonna be reference that macro, right? So, and as you can see here, that's what they do in here is they select a macro and they place it. So let's try that. So, I'm sorry, what's going on? No, I can't do it here. Sorry, I have to do it from this one. So the first thing is select object, right? And in this case, select the RAM 00. Yeah, I'm going a little bit slow for this. Okay, so from here, you can see in the GUI it says selected one, right? So you know where is that? You know, if you notice here, that's the icon that says zoom selected. So normally you can zoom out and see which one is selected, or you can just click on this icon, right? So zoom to the macro. Let's see, where is it? It's right here. Why it didn't work? But essentially that's the RAM 0, right? RAM 0 right here. So we selected that macro and we want to place it at the corner. Let's see here. Okay. So let's do this and then I'll explain. Okay, so if you look at this command, it's say, I'm gonna place this instant was the same instant RAM 0, right? And reference core boundary, which is the core. And then it has some number here. So I'll explain that. Paste. Okay. So what the command did was, say, oh, I'm going to take that instant and place at its corner, right? And one thing I want to show, the syntax of the command is, so they have essentially three things, right? Which one is reference, right? So in this case, it's reference the core boundary, which is this box here. And then you have the horizontal reference, and then you have the vertical reference, right? So I think this is wrong here. It's supposed to be 1, but still work. But to make it correctly, it should be 1. So essentially, so you have the horizontal edge separate. That means it has 3 number, right? It's say, well, what is the reference edge that I'm referring to? In this case, is 1, which is the top one. So this is the square. So you count clockwise from the bottom left. So it's 0, 1. So the top one is 1, and then the offset is minus 30, right? So if I go up here, I'm gonna measure it. It should be 30. Yeah, it's yeah. If it line up, then it should be 30 right there. So I'm gonna show you the picture. I think we already show it how the edge get number. It's from the bottom left, and then clockwise. And then the same thing here is for the vertical, it's gonna be 2 and 2, which is the right side. If they measure from here, which is the reference, side 2, right? The edge 2 to here is 30 as well, right? So let's do another one here. And you don't have to do like one at a time. You can do multiple, right? So I think that's what they tried to do here. Is create a floor plan. So they're gonna do the 9 2, and 3. So instead of do 1 macro, they're gonna do 3, right? So, and the reference is the RAM 0, which is this one, right? The one that we just placed. So we're gonna place, by looking at this, we're gonna place 3 more macros reference to the first one, right? And then we have a reference type object. See, the first one we did was reference type the core, right? So now, no, we're not gonna reference the core. We're gonna reference the object, right? So, and that's the object we reference, which is the RAM 0, right? So, and here the same, right? So instead of you have 1 set, now we have 3 set, right? We have the 3, that's the edge number 3, and then that's the offset. So let's do this. We're gonna rerun this again. That's why. Sorry, I need to do this one. Okay. So as you can see, we're gonna, we look at it, we say, well, let's investigate some of these. Zoom in here. So we have the instant 9, 2, and 3, right? Just like that. That's the order. So we're gonna say let's the first one is 9, and then we have 2, and then we have 3, right? And it's reference the first one, which is the RAM 0. Object, object, object. And then we have edge number 3, which is the bottom, right? So what it does, what it's saying here is that I'm gonna reference the bottom of the preference respect to the edge 1, which is the top, right? So what it's saying is right here, right? So I want to place my object below the reference object with the spacing of 32.52, right? So if I measure it here, right, it's going to be 32.52. So that's what it does. So, okay, any questions so far? So because the next set of object is very similar. So we do that, and then let's see this here. I'll to do another one here. Yeah, sometimes escalate slow. Okay, let's zoom out. Let's see what it tried to do. Okay, so now instead of going this way, it's referring, horizontally instead of vertically. So we can see here just to verify. So we do the first instant is 13, 8, and then 12. Actually, in this case, they do 4, right? 13, 8, 12, and 16, right? Oh, you can see it here, 13, 8, 12 and 16, right? And then you can compare, look at the reference type is object, and the reference object is the first one, 13. So it's reference to the first one has to be 0, right? Right. So essentially the first one reference 0, the second one reference the first, and vice versa, right? Essentially the instant just reference the one that on the right. And as you can see here is the horizontal. Going to be 1 and 1. So essentially that's the top, right? So essentially say, if I look at this top edge of my reference and I look at my top edge, the offset is 0, right? Essentially that's, I align the top edge here. So everything is flat, like flush on the top. And for the vertical separation, I'm gonna reference the 0, which is the left side of the reference object, right? So which is this side here. So the left side of my object. And then I'm gonna look at my right side as number 2, right? So remember if we count 0, 1, 2. So reference the left side of the reference object. And I'm looking at my right side and say the offset is 36.3, right? So if I zoom in here and I measure from, because it's minus because it go to the left, right? So I had to measure this way. That's why it's minus, right? 36.3. So, and that's, and then if you want, you can rotate it. In this case, just R0, which is the default orientation, right? So I think I have a slide talking about here. So you look at this, you have like R0, which means rotate 0. That means not rotating, right? So that's the origin. That's R0. And then you have what I call MX, which is mirror along the x-axis, right through x-axis here. So imagine that you have an x here and you flip it. So one way is say, okay, I'm gonna flip it, reference the x, and then my is the same way, flip it, to the y-axis. And here rotate 180, right? So you take the R0, you rotate 180, you get this, right? So this MX90, right? So you take this. So it's here, you can reference and then you try to make, see, yeah, kind of make get used to it. But here is the system, how they number the edge, right? So for a square, it's very straightforward. You start with the lowest left corner, right? And then you say, wow, I'm going to do clockwise, 0, 1, 2, and 3. For complicated polygon, you have to do kind of similar. You look at the lowest edge, and then you look at the left one. You start here, right? Not here, right? Because this is not the lowest, right? So you want to do it here, and then you start counting, right? So and then okay, so here they have some example here. So in this case, we want to place the instant A. In this case, that's the box here, right? And then of reference, the core boundary. That's what we have here, right? The core boundary here, just like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And similarly, it's count from 0, 1, 2, 3 here. And you can see here the horizontal edge separation is 5, right? So because it's the core, that's the 5 of the core. And the same thing for the instant A is 5. And it's a plus 10, that means we go in this way, right? That means instant A is on the top. This edge is above. When it's a plus side, that means it's above, right? And for the vertical, it's 4 and 4 with this one, right? And then it's minus 20. That means the instant A is on the left side of the reference edge, right? If you do a plus 20, then it's going to be over here, right? So why we need to do the relative placement, right? The nice thing about relative placement is, let's say you're gonna resize your core, and then all these placement you don't have to change, right? Because the first instant here is reference to the core, right? This corner, and everything else is gonna be reference to that. So even though you keep resizing your core based on, let's say, when your netlist change dynamically, your core gonna change, but you want to keep your placement exactly the same, right? So instead of go in and figure out, what's the new coordinate, you don't have to do that, right? You just run exactly the same script, and it's gonna place your macro relatively exactly the same respect to this corner, right? So you have to choose, essentially you have to choose the anchor point, and everything gonna be fixed relatively according to that anchor. So that's the reason we do the relative placement. It's pretty powerful, right? Let's see. So we get that. I think the other statement is, I think it's the same. Let's see. So 1, 2. I think I did 1, 2. Yeah, sorry, just it's very slow. So I'm gonna do something here. Yeah, I'm not gonna copy. I'm gonna source the whole thing because I have to comment this out because I don't want to do it again. So yeah, I don't want to copy it. So I'm gonna run place. Just want to show you what if you're gonna copy all those files and then run it, then what it's gonna look like. Okay, so as you can see, it's the same thing, right? So by looking at the arrow, we know, right? So we had the RAM 0 here. The first thing we did was down, right? So essentially, we create this column on the right side, and then we say, oh, I'm going to do 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, and another row, right? That's what, if you look in the tickle file, that's what it does. How about these, right? These doesn't have any relative placement at all. So let's see, where's that come from then? Yeah, so essentially it's have the absolute coordinate, right? So say, yeah, I'm gonna place this peripheral 1 pH at 300, so it's placed right here. So if we click on that, macro, and then you can do a Q, right? Which is pull up the attribute and should be able to verify. Oh, it's right there. I'm sorry. 370, right? And 1606.45, right? That's the origin right here, right? And it's R0 and it's fixed. So essentially fixed mean whatever we do in the latest step, the tool not gonna move the macro. Essentially is whatever we want to place it there, the tool not gonna move it. So that the big one, how about the smaller one? So I assume it's gonna be in this place instant. So let me see. So it should be okay. So place instant here. So let me pull that up. Right. So these are the smaller macro, right? It's same thing, right? It start with the X is 385. The 4 of them here, 5 of them. So you can say, oh, must be these 5, right? So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So the first 4, that's 5, and then 8, 841 right here, 841, right? You can see the coordinate here, by, just moving around, and you already know which one corresponding to this. And then the biggest one is 1674, I believe this one, right? Right, so that's it. So majority of the RAM placed on relatively on the right corner, right? And then these calculate anchor to the left. And then you see later on later step, I think we're gonna do on Friday. Why we do that? Because sometimes, as I mentioned, right? So we want the ability to resize the core, right? So essentially you have to anchor all these macro at certain corner, and then you can resize your core accordingly. Okay, I think what else I want to do. I think that's very much it. And here, I mean, yeah, when you place a macro, you can associate what's the placement status, right? So we have fix. That's what it does. Fix it, right? Don't move it. And then we have suffix, right? So you can read all here. And then the toolbox, yeah, let's do that quickly. So if you notice, there's a toolbox here, right? So this toolbox is very useful to align things. So let me see, I can move it over here. So let's just do a quick example here. I don't think we have, okay. I gotta move this way. Okay, so for some reason, I don't want these two to be here. I want it to be aligned to the top. say, so I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna move this bigger macro, align flush on the top. So I can select these, and you can see here that I'm gonna look at the align portion here, and you can tell, so this is the align top, right? That's, in this case, that's what we want. So it's gonna move to the top, right? And then I wanna move, let's say I wanna move this up, but I want to keep a certain distance, right? So space here. So I want to, let's say, make it 20. And the distance I want to respect to the top one. So essentially I want to move the second up and then keep a distance of 20. So let's try that. Let's say right here. Say try. Right. So if I come in here, and let's say, should I measure it? Right, it's going to be exactly 20. So there's multiple option you can do, but just want to show you. And then you can, yeah, you very much can do anything. You don't have to do relative placement. You can do all these array with these box, right? Very straightforward. Just slide them up very easily. Um, okay, so I think we have only like 2 minutes, so I want to leave that for does any question. Is there any question? Let me look at it. Mhm. Hello, no question?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, so
Dạ, cảm ơn mọi người. Thì nếu mà có câu hỏi gì thì cứ có thể là trong cái lớp học nó có cái stream đó, thì các em muốn hỏi gì thì cứ để lên trên đó hỏi cũng được, hoặc là gửi email đến cho các thầy để hỏi, giống như có một số em đã hỏi. Okay, Thiện, there's a question in the chat.
uh oh yeah, that's the coordinate. So I think he's talking about this one here. So essentially the statement here is a place instant, right? So place instant is you take an instant name and then an X and Y, right? So in this case, so I think we already established, oh, this is 380, the smallest one. So it has to be the bottom one here. So if I move here, right, that's 385 and 937. So yes, that's the X and Y of the of the of the macro. Yeah. Yeah, only this corner. Yep.
Ok, để cho mọi người khỏi yên tâm nha, nếu mà không hiểu về ESD nhiều thì cũng không sao, thường thường trong cái chip có một người ta lo chuyện đó. Mình chỉ lo bỏ mấy cái path đồ vào thôi, cho mình hiểu ESD để cho mình biết cái nguyên lý, những cái lý thuyết đằng sau thôi, chứ mình không có cần phải hiểu để mà lo trách nhiệm của người PD. Không 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 có cần phải lo nhiều về PhD, về ESD. Ừ. Còn về laptop thì mình chỉ có mấy cái design rule là mình biết hết. Sau đó khi mà qua placement mình sẽ hiểu hơn về cái laptop.
Yeah, so there's a question about if we change the core area, whether these spacing between these group of relative placement are gonna change. No, because the way we specify is about spacing between them, right? So it's not gonna change, right? So and talking about fixed. So I mean, ideally, all of these macro has to be fixed, right? So we don't want to move them, right? So initially, like let's say that the first time you want to run the placement, you don't know, right? Say initially when you do work on a chip, you don't know um, why this RAM has to be here, right? It can be why it has to be in this corner, right? Um, uh, but not this corner, right? So there's way you can run the tool by let the tool actually float to place the macro for you, right? So at least you have some idea of what the tool thing was the macro gonna be, right? So you're gonna use that at the starting point, right? At least say, wow, the root of macro, you know, these ramps should be in this corner instead of this corner. The reason is that the tool know the connectivity, right? So if this RAM, interfacing with a lot of I/O over here, so more likely the tool gonna place the RAM here. Right? You don't want later step to move the macro.
This meeting is being recorded.
A long time to do. So I'm just show you some of the activity, but in here, so remember that I have this orange. Yes, do these right in the lab. So it's going to take you some time to do it. So okay.
All right, we 3 minutes past. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều. Chúc mọi người có một ngày vui vẻ và học hành tấn tới.
Ok, thôi cảm ơn mọi người nha. Ok, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Right, thank you, bye.
Have a
Bye
good
bye.
day.